I'm Tess from Blonde Logic Gaming and you are watching Notts Gamer.
Yes people, welcome back to the Notts Cave. This weekend just gone we had the 4th Nottingham Video Games Expo in my fair old city, the Belgrave rooms in Nottingham City Centre, hosted by thesegaguru, and it's much more. These two guys put on such a spread every year, honestly people. I'd like to go into as much detail as I usually go to with these things, but I spent a lot of my time socialising with a few other YouTubers, perhaps having maybe a few too many points people. So I didn't get round like I usually intend to. We're going to have a look at some of the stands that I did visit, and I'll chat about some of the people that we spoke to there. And trust me people, there was loads of YouTubers there too, and at the end of it all we got some lovely pickups. Yes, I got some pickups for the Notts Cave, so we'll finish up with that, but let's have a quick look round Nottingham Video Games Expo 2024. So most of the footage I got here is from the Sunday. On the Saturday the room was so rammed with people that it was virtually impossible to get a good shot of the room and the trader tables that were inside there. But on the Sunday it was much less footfall during the day, and it was a lot cooler in the room, a lot more relaxed day than on the Saturday. So as regards tables in the room, we had the Derby Computer Museum right at the back with some PCs, Amigas and old computers playing games from the 80s and 90s, which was really cool to see. We had Get World Gamers there too. They had a Super Nintendo on the raffle with 20 odd games there, and a lot of them are really cool. And they also had the bucket of obligatory 10 games for £5, which is always good guys, because 10 games for £5 you can't go wrong. Honestly, some fantastic PlayStation and Xbox games in there too. Speaking of Xbox, I think Computer Nostalgia Heaven had the best selection of modded original Xboxes I think I've ever seen. I mean, you should have seen Goldtooth, man. He was practically drooling for one of these things. But you can see why. It kind of gets me in the mood to mod my own. Obviously, we can't cover absolutely everything because I didn't see everything while I was at the event. I know there was a room holding various talks throughout both days, but as that doesn't really interest me too much, I didn't really stick my head through the door to see what was going on in there. I was mainly too busy rummaging for retro games and socialising with a few people from the YouTube community. And these beautiful people, as we can see in a second here, will all be named in the description. What a brilliant motley crew we are. Look at us. Bunch of sexy tubers. Yes. So zipping round this sexy picture in a clockwise motion, starting from the top left we have Retro Ed, next to which we have Faux Plays and Blonde Logic Gaming, and the newcomer next to her, Mr. Easy Man, who's only got 2 videos at the moment, but yes, keep going my friend. Stood next to the delightfully tall Scott from Marathon Gaming, and flowing down to yours truly, and the one and only Goldtooth Gaming. So yes, I'll link all these tubers in the description. If you've not checked out their channels already, I suggest you do so right after watching this video. Yes. I did get over to the Monster Joystick stand this year, but sadly he doesn't make one for the Sega Saturn yet, but we did have a good chat about doing one in the future, which is promising. I also got to have a good talk with Alexander Hamilton, the brains behind The Train and The Train 2 for the Game Boy. 2 games that were kickstarted in recent years. I've just finished the first game and I'm about to start on the second. In the first train game you play as Eve, who's quested with repairing her grandfather's train and exploring the land. Alexander also went on to say that he's currently working on a prequel to The Train covering the grandfather's adventures, and he's also started work on another game called Lunar Mystery, which should hit Kickstarter later this year. So the last stand I want to cover is MBP UK. I stood here for a good half an hour talking Rowan's head off about the manuals and guides that he makes to fit inside your Nintendo Switch cases, something that's sadly missing from most modern video game releases. So later in the video I'll show you some MBP products because I did pick up a few manuals from this guy. So in a nutshell, that was Nottingham Video Games Expo 2024, or at least what I did while I was there. So let's jump over to the Notts bench and check out some pickups. So the first 3 games we picked up at the convention were from Blonde Logic Gaming. She picked me a few Sega Saturn titles up from her local gaming shop, starting with Athlete Kings. I'm currently trying to tart up my Sega Saturn collection. Even though we have the full set, I do have some rather tatty ones, and as it's been brought to my attention recently since getting a Saru, some of my discs don't work, so I'm currently replacing some of my Saturn games with minty ones where possible, and these are very good condition. Athlete Kings again is one of the best games on the Saturn, guys. Probably one of the best button bashing sports games Notts Gamers ever played. It's presented really well and it's aged fantastically too.
And the next game out of the bag from the beautiful Tess is Primal Rage for the Sega Saturn. Now, when I tried to back this up for use in my Saru, not only did the game not back up, it also didn't play in my Sega Saturn, so I've gone for a nice minty copy of Primal Rage this time. The disc is absolutely lovely. The game itself is a relatively close port to the arcade brawler. Sadly, in this case, somebody has coloured in all the scuffed edges of my box. You can see the marker pen at the top and on the edges. The shine of it is just horrible, and in my opinion, these things should be left not coloured in, people. And the final game that Tess picked up for me was Myst for the Sega Saturn. Now, the version of Myst I had was an absolute doozy when I opened the box, people. There was a deep ring cut into the centre of the disc. It's been sat on my shelf for 20 odd years, man, and I've finally got round to wanting to play it, and it didn't work. But this copy is an absolute minter. Myst is a point-and-click adventure game that I've yearned to play for years and just never had the time to do so. And I'd rather experience it in its original form, so I'm going to have a blast on it on the Sega Saturn. Nice one, Tess. So the first real pickup was Gun Griffin 2 for the Sega Saturn. We picked this up from Sore Thumb Retro Games, and I covered the original Gun Griffin in my previous video. That game passed me by years ago and ended up being one of the best mech shooters I've played in recent years, and one of the best Saturn games I've played too. Gun Griffin 2 improves on the first game in every single conceivable way. Better frame rate, better graphics, more honed controls, and twin stick support too. So I can't wait to get stuck into this game.
Mission complete.
So next up we have Disney's Donald Duck Quack Attack for the Sega Dreamcast. This is another one of those games Notts Gamer needs to finish the full Dreamcast set, and this game is currently slowly creeping up in value, as are many of the others. The disc is an absolute minter, people, which I'm very, very happy for, and I got this game for a really, really reasonable price too. Donald Duck Quack Attack is a platformer that borrows heavily from games like Crash Bandicoot, Rayman and Super Mario 64. It's come together quite nicely and plays okay. It's not a brilliant game by any stretch, and you can tell that it was ported from the Nintendo 64 because there are certain graphical limitations that you do notice. The game is one of the few Dreamcast games that I own in Powerland that actually came with a colour manual, people, which is shocking, to be honest, because, yeah, colour manuals just weren't a thing back then. Anyway, Quack Attack for the Dreamcast, people. The next game we have is Alice Sisters for the Sega Dreamcast. This indie title was developed by Orionsoft and published by Josh Prod. And at these expos, Notts Gamer can't resist picking up indie titles, especially when they're on a Sega format. Alice Sisters looks like a really cool 16-bit puzzle-based platformer, but unfortunately, people, as we always tend to struggle with these pixel art games, I did have a little bit of difficulty getting into the case. Yes, it's presented in that lovely fat dual PAL case that people hate for the Sega Dreamcast, but I really did struggle getting into this one, and once we were finally in, it was okay. But yeah, number one problem with these pixel art games is the box is always a bit of a nightmare to get into. And according to the back of that box, Alice Sisters is the sequel to Alice Mum's Rescue, a game which I've never played also. Anyway, Alice Sisters, like I said earlier, is a 16-bit puzzle-based platformer where you get to switch between Alice and Alice. Each Alice has a different ability. One has fireballs so you can attack the enemies, and the other has the ability to eat mushrooms, shrink down and enter small passages to locate keys, unlock switches and help you progress through the stages. It's a beautifully well presented 16-bit platformer with some really nice Mega Drive sounding music too. This puzzle platformer could probably keep you going for quite a while. I didn't get too far into it, but I really did enjoy the way the game flows. And for some reason it reminded me of Bubble and Squeak on the Amiga, and I'm telling you people, that's not a bad thing. Okay guys, so bargain bin oddity next, we have Kotobi Tune for the PlayStation 1. Now I picked this up thinking it was just going to be one of those sort of Highway 2000 style racing games. Oh man, was I wrong. This game is just knee deep with options. Honestly, I didn't know if I was at one point playing a driving game or a dating sim or a real life simulator, guys, because for some reason you have to plan out your week, you have to talk to all these ladies around the track. I got absolutely no idea what was going off. So for £4, this game is just, yeah, it's got something to it, but I'm just not quite sure what it is yet. I'm gonna have to play this with Google Lens, so I've got a clue what's going off. But yeah, it wouldn't put it past an old Japanese game to have a dating sim, a real life sim, and a driving sim all in one. And honestly, people, I was playing this for a good sort of 15 to 20 minutes, messing around in menus before I even got to the point where I was going to drive a car. So yes, Kotobi Tune. I'm not sure what it is. I'm pretty sure you guys aren't sure what it is. So together, we can all be happy in not knowing what this game is. Yes. Still on the subject of bargain bins, people, we have Worms, a space oddity for the Wii. Now I picked this up thinking, yes, it's a Worms game on a Wii. I haven't got a Worms game. It looks two-dimensional, it looks classic Worms fun. When loading this game up, the first thing you notice is that the control scheme has you holding the controller vertically instead of horizontally, and everything is based around motion controls. So what Team 17 have done here is they've taken the fantastic, awesome playability, pick up simple blasting playability of Worms, and they've motion controlled the crap out of it, people, and it's completely and utterly wrecked the way the game feels. The motion controls for this, even though it tells you at the bottom of the screen what to do, are just truly dreadful. What a bad game. What a shame.
Stop picking on me. That's correct. Observe. That defied the laws of physics. I am giving up. Denied. This body goes to scientific research. The results show a conclusive victory.
The final game we picked up was Mario Party for the Nintendo 64. I picked this game up from Retromania's stand, the same stand where I found Quack Attack and Worms. The box for Mario Party is in very, very good condition. Sadly, the game is missing the manual, but we can rectify that in the future. I'm sure I'll be able to find one of those. The cartridge is an original as well. Just had to check that over to make sure I've not got no fakery, because these Nintendo 64 fakes are getting harder to spot, people. There we go, legitimate cartridge, a very, very nice box there, and just got to look out for a manual for Mario Party. Now, the only Mario Party game I played was on the Wii U, and that's the game that Feed Me Chicken gave me last year. So Mario Party is going to have to get played with Mrs. Notts Gamer, isn't it? Yes.
Finish!
In a time when game manufacturers no longer give you manuals for your video games, there is MBP. Yes, people, MBP was at Notts Video Games Expo again this year. This guy makes some fantastic little instruction booklets and mini players guides to slip straight into your Nintendo Switch cases, just behind those two little prongs that Nintendo put in the box that they don't use for anything else. So these little pocket-sized guides are perfect for those games that you really want to get the most out of. And instructions too, people, what can I say? Here we have the pocket guide for Metroid Dread on the Switch, a game that Notts Gamer just couldn't get his head round. I love Metroid, but for some reason I just couldn't get into this game. So hopefully with the tips and tricks inside this MBP manual here, we'll be able to get to the end of Metroid Dread. Yes. And the next guide out of the bag is Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury on the Switch. Super Mario 3D World was also released for the Nintendo Wii U before the Switch, so the information regarding that game in this guide will be useful for the Wii U version too. This one is by far one of the biggest guides I've seen that MBP UK do. It's stuffed with all the information, controls, power-ups, multiplayer options, stars, maps and content for both the original Super Mario 3D World and the Bowser's Fury extended content in here. We have world maps laid out with what stars and collectibles you need to get in order to help you get the most out of this game. And I tell you what, some of these Mario games do tend to go on a lot after you've completed them with all the extra bits and bobs. So these guides are really, really useful. The next one out of the bag is Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the most recent Super Mario title in the series, and one that Notts Gamer is yet to finish, people. About halfway through this one, I think, in terms of the normal story and not the extra bits and bobs, all of which will be revealed within the walls of the Super Mario Wonder MBP book. This book contains all the information you will need regarding special worlds, world maps, kingdom regions, standees, wonder flowers, badges, you name it, everything is contained within the walls of this beautiful little MBP book. And the final book is for one of my favourite GameCube games of all time, recently ported to the Switch, Metroid Prime Remastered. Man, this game was just absolutely mind-boggling back in the day when it was first released, and even now in the re-release the gameplay just has aged like a fine wine, people. But because the human brain doesn't, there is the MBP guide that I can refer to when I'm playing through this game again to refresh my memory on all the missing items and secret areas, bits and bobs that I need to pick up along the way, like power-ups, power armors and abilities. Yes. So what are you waiting for, people? Check out MBP UK today. Honestly, this ain't a paid advertisement or anything like that. I'm just that impressed with the quality of these little booklets that you'd think that Nintendo themselves have made them and put them in with the games. The quality's there, the information's there, and I just cannot recommend these any higher, people. I'll link all the information for MBP UK in the description, so feel free to pop over to the site and check out what books, guides and manuals he has for your Switch games. They fit lovely, people. Look, they fit perfectly in your little case. Yes. Slide it in, click it shut. What else is there? Yes. MBP, people. So next up we took a trip to the Right Sprite stand and we bought two BitFunks memory cards for the PlayStation 2. Now these two memory cards do serve two different functions, and the first of which is the purple memory card on the left. This memory card serves as a micro SD card reader for your PlayStation 2, so when inserted in the PlayStation, with the micro SD card in containing whatever information you need, be it games or other software that's compatible, you can run it from a memory card. The second card is the free MC boot card, which boots your PlayStation into a completely different BIOS, enabling you to access that first memory card full of games. And the idea behind this is to plug these into my PlayStation 2, back up my PS2 games, a lot like we did with my Dreamcast, be able to run them all from a memory card. So don't forget to go to rightsprite.co.uk and check these out. Again, I will link this in the description, people. And as we saw earlier in the video, I bumped into the rather fantastic Retro Ed, who gave me one of his pin badges. Awesome dude, thanks a lot, that's going straight on the Notts bench. So for anybody in or around Nottingham later this year, we have the Nottingham Gaming Market on Sunday the 13th of October at the Harvey Haddon Sports Village. I'm going to go there and buy some games, people, so I suggest you all do the same. And after that, we also have the Nottingham Gaming Fair. This is on Saturday the 30th of November at the Nottingham High School. Yes, plenty of opportunities for everyone in and around Notts to pick up some games this year.
So yes, people, that was Nottingham Video Games Expo 2024, hosted by the fantastic It's Much More and the beautiful Segaguru people, two of the nicest tubers I've ever met, and I wish you guys the best with every endeavour you have in the future. And I look forward to 2025's Nottingham Video Games Expo. I know you're going to not let us down, people, because every year this thing just gets better and better. You meet more people every time. It's a brilliant social gathering for local tubers, for local collectors and local traders and anyone alike. So get your arse down to the Video Games Expo 2025, people, and I know they're going to have one in my fair little town again. I'm going to go away now and play some Donald Duck. Yes, I do an impression, but I've done that twice already. Really bad. So take care, people. I'm going to play some Quack Attack. We'll see you in the next video. Yes.